So first you find out that life as an adult can kind of suck. So you think to yourself, well, being a kid was happy times and I used to play video games. So I'll just play the video games I played as a kid. Maybe start with a console like the NES. So first you decide to get the games you owned as a kid, but only the games you had as a kid, right? Wrong, because no more asking mom and dad for games. You're an adult who can buy whichever games you want, kind of. And then you find out that these games actually start up pretty quickly. That is when they start, because then you remember you used to always blow on the cartridges to get them started. But then you find out that you're actually not supposed to blow on your cartridges. Turns out saliva and spit don't mix well with electronics. Then you find out that quick drying isopropyl alcohol on a Q-tip cleans them better. And then you find out that you actually kind of suck at these games. Respawning right where you died wasn't a thing for these games unless you make it a thing with save states. Then you start having some fun playing the games and find out more games would be even more fun than getting your 8 hours of sleep as you research late into the night which games to get next, combing through all manner of lists. Most of them just keep saying the same games like Contra, Mario, and Mike Tyson, but occasionally a list mentions something like Adventures of Lolo you hadn't heard of before, so let's keep digging, folks. Then you have the thought, well, maybe I should just buy every game for the console and have a complete set. Wouldn't that be so cool? I mean, why stop at the good games when I can buy all the bad games too? Or if you're lucky enough, you'll realize you can just buy games for a different console first, like maybe the Sega Genesis. So first you find out that this console had a lot of different hardware revisions, like Genesis 1, 2, and 3? Well, I guess the smallest one would be fun. Wrong, because you find out that if you care about audio, the first model has the best. But not so fast there, Sparky, because then you learn that this model has 7 different motherboard revisions to consider. Then you find out a simple choice is to just get one of the consoles that says high definition at the top, which doesn't mean this kind of high definition, more like late 80s marketing. Then you find out about all the additional hardware that could be attached to the Genesis to play different games that required them. Then you find out you don't care about any of that mess and just go with a regular Genesis anyways. Then you find out it had different controllers too. Then you realize you probably want the 6-button controller so you can play the games that require it. And speaking of games, then you find out that the Genesis had more than just Sonic games and Aladdin. It had a lot of other good stuff too, like exclusive Castlevania and Contra games? Cool! Then you find out maybe Genesis did do some things Nintendo didn't. Then you start enjoying the games, become a Sega fan, and realize your bias against it was a remnant of childhood schoolyard console war, fiddlesticks, and balderdash. Then you realize maybe I love Sega enough that I do want all the Genesis add-ons. Decide to build a tower of power and it becomes part of your identity, which gets you hungry to start collecting for the next console, the TurboGrafx 16. First you find out it uses these things called hue cards as games. That's kind of cool, but then you find out it doesn't even have composite video by default. That's right, not even composite, which some people already think is garbage, only RF on this console. But then you find out the Japanese version is called the PC Engine, is much cheaper and has more games. But which one? They come in all sorts of different colors with different names. One of them is shaped like a space shuttle, but then you find out most of the system's best games are on CD, which, you guessed it, requires more hardware that once again comes in different colors with different names. One of them's got some funky briefcase attachment, and are any of these known for being reliable and problem-free? I think you know the answer. No. And the CD games require system cards, and as you'd hope, there's different ones to figure out what they do, unless you buy an all-in-one duo unit that can play all the games and even has the most essential system cards already built in. Wish we just started with this, huh? Too late, too late. too late. We're already down the rabbit hole, and guess what? Some of those all-in-one units are known for having bad capacitors inside of them. So you'll have to either replace them or make sure you buy the model that is known for having good ones. And just when you thought this console was fresh out of Flapdoodle, then you find out the consoles only have one controller port by default. Really great system with a super underappreciated game library though. But next, we're going to a more well-known system, the Super Nintendo. First, you find out that it had a different design with more color in other parts of the world, but nope, just lucky purple for you. And lucky yellow, with lots of the gray plastic used for its games and consoles turning a vomit-like yellow color due to a chemical process. Score! And just like that, you've become Bill Nye's apprentice as you conduct science experiments to reverse the chemical process, or just scour through pages of eBay listings until you find one that isn't yellow, or just rock a yellow one because you can't be bothered. Then you find out that a lot of its games use save batteries that can die and need to be replaced. Precious data attached to something that can die makes sense to me. Then you find out you need special screwdrivers to open up the games and to swap out the batteries that you'll need to learn how to solder to fix. Yep, just wanted to play Super Mario World and now you're learning about melting metal. And then you find out there were some games that only came out in Japan or are much cheaper than the US versions that you can play by using something like a Game Genie or by just ripping out the plastic tabs in your console. Next up, the Neo Geo. So first you remember that this console had a reputation for being expensive back in the day. Has it gotten cheaper? Nope. So then you decide, well, I guess owning an imaginary Neo Geo will have to do, just like the Ferrari I own will have to do. But then you find out that the actual cartridges that would go into the Neo Geo arcade cabinets are cheaper. Cheaper as in my pride and dignity are cheaper than my obsession with video games. But hey, maybe you can scrounge up a couple good prices on carts here and there, and it's still the real thing. After all, the home console version AES cartridges are just the exact same arcade games, but for home use. So the way to do it now is to take those arcade cartridges and plug them into an old arcade motherboard that's been consoleized so that it can be used at home, like the home console that is more expensive, even though what you're doing is still expensive, but because it's less expensive, you feel like you're winning. But then you find out you can also just get a cartridge adapter for the home console version that lets you use arcade cartridges on the home console version, or just say, fork it, I'm gonna use a multi-cart with a bunch of games on it instead. And then you find out, oh, there's all these different other devices for Neo Geo, or a million other ways to play Neo Geo games, including for free on something like a Raspberry Pi. Next console, the first PlayStation. So first you think, why even bother? I can just use a PS2 to play PS1 games, but then you remember, oh, maybe use the PS1 so I don't miss out on that. Then you find out that certain early PlayStations had overheating issues, and one solution was to turn your console upside down so the laser aligns better. No, not you! You don't need to be upside down too. Then you find out, wait, the PlayStation controller didn't always have analog sticks? What the heck is this? Then you find out the PS1's library is full of nearly endless games, including ones you never heard of, that you never even saw at the Blockbuster you went to every weekend, that always seemed to have weird games in the corner that nobody rented out. Then you find out most PS1 games look like absolute trash on your giant modern TV. And you think, wow, I actually thought this looked good back then? But then you find out it's because the resolution of your games is being stretched out by modern TVs because some random person in a Reddit thread blows you up in a post for not knowing. So time to get an old tube TV. Don't don't drop it and don't keep it anywhere that anybody living with you can ever see it. Next, the Sega Saturn. So first you find out that this console actually wasn't garbage like you thought when you were younger. That's just what the weird advertising tried to convince you of, because you find out Sega Saturn had a lot of cool games, the type of games a retro gamer would enjoy. You know, like arcade games, 2D games, unique Sega games, Capcom games, and then you find out that the Saturn was actually much more popular in Japan, in part thanks to this guy, Sega Sanshiro, who would beat up kids for not playing the system. I wish somebody would have beaten me up for not playing the Saturn when I was a kid, because then I would have played it sooner. Then you find out that some games were only released in Japan, including really good ones that Sega of America thought, nah, we're good, we got this guy. So now you decide you need to play Japanese Saturn games too, which luckily you can do by just plugging various carts into the console that are cheap to get and come with other benefits like extra RAM and backing up your saves, which is too bad because right before that, you found out that the system uses a battery that can die to store your saves if you don't back them up. Wish you'd known that before you lost your saves? Too late, too late. Too late. Next up, we have the Nintendo 64. So first you find out that your controller stick is pretty loose because the design of it slowly grinds away the plastic as you spin Bowser around in circles or burn a hole through your hand in Mario Party. Then you find out there's all kinds of different colors of controllers you can get and consoles. Then you find out you enjoy building an N64 controller wall more than playing the console, but when you do play, no more of that basic gray. Now you play with a controller that has a banana jacket. And speaking of playing games, then you find out that if you want to play certain games, you want the expansion pack. But tell yourself you don't need it because you'll never play Donkey Kong until the day you decide you do want to play Donkey Kong and should have gotten the expansion pack before. You don't deserve to Donkey Kong. Then you realize, dang, feels like a lot of the good games on this system were made by Rareware. Then you realize, dang, feels like a lot of the good games on this system had 4-player multiplayer in mind. Then you realize, dang, feels like life was better when I had friends who were always available to play 4-player multiplayer. Next up, we have the Sega Dreamcast. First you find out this thing is loud, but that's okay because casting dreams is hard work. Then you find out the controller's cord comes out from the bottom, but that's okay because you can make it work. You're hecka smart. Then you find out, dang, this console had a lot of bangers for how short its life was. Then you find out that hooking up the Dreamcast to a TV can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. Want the simple way? Too late, we're doing it the complicated way. Dreamcast can display natively in standard definition or what's called enhanced definition, but not high definition. It can strangely use VGA for better quality, a connection commonly associated with computer monitors, but did all games support this? I think you know the answer. No, though it was possible to trick the console into supporting it for some games. Who doesn't love tricking their consoles? The Dreamcast also had light gun games that require a CRT to work properly, as well as some 2D games that could display in 240p by activating a lower resolution mode. Oh, and you know, RGB SCART, that video connection people really like, well, the Dreamcast could display that as well, but again, certain games don't work for some reason, and to make it even more fun, this compatibility varied by region. Oh, and by the way, the simple solution is to just plug your Dreamcast into a CRT with whatever cable you have and call it a day. Next, the PlayStation 2. First, you find out that the controller's buttons are pressure sensitive. Huh? How did I not notice that before? Then you find out the bottom of some PS2 game discs are blue. Huh? How did I not notice that before? Then you find out that the logo on the console can be rotated. Huh? How did I not notice that before? Next, I'll find out that your eyes never grow and stay the same size from birth. Wait, they do? Then you find out that PS1 memory cards won't work for PS2 games, just PS1 games on your PS2. And PS2 memory cards won't work for PS1 games, only PS2 games on your PS2. But you can still back up your PS1 game saves to a PS2 memory card, but just not directly from the game you're playing itself. But then you just buy a whole bunch of memory cards because they're dirt cheap anyways. Then you find out there's really not much more to find out other than exploring the system's massive library of games, and not just the GTA games you marathoned when you were younger. Next, the original Xbox. You find out most of its best games can be played with the game discs on the newer Xbox consoles at higher resolutions and frame rates. All done. Next, the Nintendo GameCube. First, you find out that the GameCube was actually more powerful than the PS2 in a lot of ways, but that got lost in the shuffle of it being made fun of for looking like a lunchbox. Then you realize that the GameCube actually has some of the weirdest Nintendo games, but weird in a satisfying way, like smelling old books. Then you realize the console could do component video, but that cable is really expensive, and you need to have one of the systems that has the port for the cable. Then you realize you can just play GameCube games on a Wii, including with component. Then you realize you have to rely on a Wiimote with charged batteries to start up GameCube games every time and go back to playing GameCube games on a GameCube. Then you find out you can add a monkey sound to the startup jingle by holding the Z button, and suddenly your life feels like it has purpose again. Not to mention the GameCube. And that's it. You're done with all the, wait, we still gotta do handhelds. Oh, don't try to run away. They can go anywhere. They're portable.
He's the retro bird, yeah. And he's talking about video games. He's